In 1607, Britain started colonizing in the Virgin Territory of America. Britain is already separated by the Atlantic Ocean from the colonies. Right away, though, it's clear that a problem is forming. America cannot stay under control for long, and the British were well aware of this truth. Britain knew they couldn't always stay in control, but they tried. They created laws, taxes, and restrictions in order to keep the colonists in line. All of these laws and restrictions came from Parliament, the British government. A government an ocean away was telling the colonists how to live their lives. These laws set by Parliament were what started a need for revolution. Parliament was the start of the fight for control and freedom. Why should the colonists take orders from them? They weren't there and they had no say in the choices they made. In 1660, the Navigation Acts took place. Parliament put restriction on whom the colonists could trade with. They only allowed trade with Britain, and then they collected the money earned called capital. This started the restrictions. This was the point of no return. This was the beginning of many more laws. In 1666, the Declaratory Act stated that only the laws in place by Parliament were valid, and colonists were not allowed to change them. In 1764, the Sugar Act took effect, taxing sugar and molasses. A year later, the Stamp Act taxed paper, which greatly affected everyone. All of this stress and anger built up among the colonists, but not everyone was convinced to go to war with Britain. Not yet.
But in 1776, Thomas Paine changed the views of those who were still undecided. He wrote a pamphlet called Common Sense, which challenged the British government. This pamphlet strongly suggested that in order to get our much-needed independence from Britain, we must go to war. Paine's article changed the colonists from 50-50 to 80-20. This idea, this suggestion, is what truly started the war. The fire had been officially ignited. Everything leading up to this is what built the tension. It set up the dominoes. All that was needed was a little push. In the American Revolution, the main goal of colonists was to become an independent nation, and also tax-free. After the Revolution, independence was won. Sadly, there was a trade-off, and they still had to deal with taxes. But regardless, their independence was a success, and they were completely free of Britain. Look back to 1607. Why was America colonized? People came here for religious freedom. The idea of democracy was having this religious freedom. Over the course of 100 years, the concept of democracy clearly changed. As we can see, just before the Revolutionary War began, democracy now means being tax-free. Not only tax-free, but a completely free nation that stands by itself. Colonists want to no longer have to depend on Britain for anything. Democracy is now an idea for self-government.
As we look back now, we can see that the taxing and overbearing restrictions set by Parliament are what caused the Revolutionary War in America. Not only that, but Thomas Paine sparked the fire for revolt, with the aid of the already built-up tension between Britain and the colonists.
Democracy has also changed from the time of settlement up to the time of revolution. First it was religious freedom, then it was a need for self-government. The American Revolution was a success, because colonists finally got what they wanted. A nation to call their own.